Thank you all for joining us today. Today we're joined by Lenny Achan, the new CEO at LiveOnNY New York. This is an opportunity to get to know Lenny. He's new into the OPO community. Lenny, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate the warm welcome and opportunity to meet our colleagues and the industry out there. So thank you.
Yeah, and we appreciate you spending some time with us. Before we begin, can you sort of give us your background, how you got to where you are? You're obviously a newer CEO, so.
Yeah, sure. So as Steve said, not from the OPO industry, but from the broader healthcare ecosystem, business community, digital and entrepreneurship community. So I've been in healthcare for 24 years now. I started my career as an ICU nurse. So I'm an ICU nurse, I'm an adult acute care nurse practitioner, was bedside for several years before stepping into administrative roles. Touching on the space and more of the post-transplant way, but then broadly healthcare as I, moved through the ranks and managed everything from operations to clinical roles to, communications, media, and then eventually innovation and business development, which, ultimately never leaving community, never leaving my patients, but, bringing me to this role that I'm honored to have as the, CEO of LiveOnNY New York, especially, in this time, in this moment. So yeah, I've done many executive roles of the 24 years now, approximately have been a leader and an executive for about 22, 21 of those years. So yeah, been around the block.
Yeah, and quite a broad background. I mean, from clinical care all the way up to the exec. So what attracted you to this role at LiveOnNY New York?
Yeah, great question. So, interesting. When I left bedside as an ICU nurse, because I was still clinical and had then gone over onto the administrative track, it was really interesting. I was asked as a special assignment to actually lead and manage the post-transplant care unit at that time. And it was a turnaround situation. It was a ask, and the ask was simply because I was just leaving bedside, but administrative. So I was a perfect kind of hybrid as a clinician and administrator, not yet spoiled by administration and leadership, nor had yet abandoned my clinical and bedside ways. So the nurses, physicians, the collaborative and interdisciplinary team knew me, and I was able to maneuver and help rebuild that over about 9 months, but had then gone away from the world completely. And again, I say that post-transplant and inpatient world, which is not necessarily the world that I see us in, with our real mission to really serve community. But I continued through roles, and the roles that I mentioned and several others, and always tried to figure out as I went along that path, how do I have an impact, and how do I continue, to have real purpose and drive mission at scale. So whether that was inpatient, outpatient, broad healthcare, or building digital startups, or figuring out how to pull ideas out and commercialize them for the community at large, never abandoned my patient, never abandoned the thought of community. I was completely ignorant of the entire, pre-transplant all the way to the first chapter of that, which is the community and our donor community. And even as a nurse, in my training, in my practical training, in my academic training, even as a nurse practitioner, and through my career, there was not a lot of teaching, not a lot of focus, which left me quite ignorant of this blessing, this gift that I now have a part in. So while I knew that it existed, because I had worked then with the OPO, not knowing what it was or what they really did, and quite frankly saw it as something like, what are they doing, and are they interrupting my shift, and hey, I'm trying to work on my other patients. So I was on that other side of the table, if you will. I was on what I've now learned, is what we're trying to engage and educate and bring awareness to every single day. And what ultimately brought me into our world, was during COVID, and I had several roles at the time. Through COVID, I was a president of the Innovation Institute at Hospital for Special Surgery, I've been at Mount Sinai Medical Center prior to that 6-year run at HSS for about 17 years, in all different roles. But through the COVID period in New York, in 2020, the acute COVID phase, I was driving past, and I counted 11 hospitals every day, just getting to work, driving past and on the phone, on text messages, working with the community, working with colleagues, trying to use that 20 years of experience to do whatever we could together. We dropped our brands, we dropped our IDs. It didn't matter what organization you worked for or what your role was. I got to see the collective impact of community coming together that was brandless and that had impact. And there was that amazing side of that. But then there was also that other side of it, which made me really challenge myself and say, okay, how can I get back and even closer to community? Not that I got away from it, not that I abandoned it. I was very fulfilled and completely, unbelievably satisfied with every role I've ever had to serve the community at large. But the closest thing to being bedside again, what kind of impact can I have? And that was something that was top of mind. Various recruiters had come and they had seen after an offer for something that was more of a political nature that came to me that I did not want to do. Kind of woke the community up in a different way to say, wow, okay, Lenny was going to go and do that. So it kind of opened up a third eye to both those recruiters, community, and myself to say, hey, what's broken? What can I fix? How can I have an impact? And how can I scale it? And I was called for this opportunity. Again, quite ignorant about it. Again, not understanding it completely. But once I did, Steve, I just could not look the other way. There was a tremendous opportunity to have an impact, to turn something around, to change something for the better, to have direct impact on community and families, downstream, upstream, and a challenge, a real challenge, as you know, and as our colleagues know out there watching this. And I took that on. So what brought me back to it, was a feeling and a sense and a desire of getting so deeply back to purpose and so deeply back to community. This found me. And once I understood the opportunity, impact, and timing of stepping into an amazing industry to have that impact, that we met each other there. And here I am, and very happy to be here. So yeah, so that's, I feel like I've never left it. I just feel like, and not even that I found it again, I feel like it's a continuation of what I've always done, but this has a 1-to-many ratio. And that's how I describe it. In the past, I've had a 1-to-1 ratio or a bigger impact on making broad decisions as a leader. But when you make a decision in an OPO, you have a 1-to-many ratio and impact, whether that's on the organ side or the tissue side, and that's an unbelievable blessing and task to be entrusted with.
No, and that's it. You can hear the passion in your voice and the purpose that's given you, and I think it's great. And we're hearing great things about what's going on and the transformation you're making up there. And you talked about leadership just a minute ago. What's your leadership style? I mean, you're stepping into a role, and obviously there's a lot of communities you have to touch and a lot of individuals you have to manage. And so how do you take on leadership, and what's your style?
Yeah, it's a great question I've been asked through my career. And, I'm not going to give some textbook answer to you that we've all learned in school or through our lives. I'm described as unorthodox, and that's fine. I think that's how people might make sense of it all. Or, as a qual quant who really, sees both the science and art of things. I like to think of myself as a creative leader. And through my healthcare voyage and my voyage in the community at large, I think things really come down to two types of leaders. There are reactive leaders and there are creative leaders. And I've, worked for many who were both, but I think that, when you have complex problems in the world and you could see innovative solutions around them and know how to bring people together in a, not red ocean way, but a blue ocean way, in a way that's less competitive and more collaborative, in a way that could create new cutting edge solutions, to to build up our industry, not just live on New York, not just New York, not just our region, but to live vicariously through your members and the OPOs that they lead, to live vicariously through their success, to live vicariously through their failures, and equally to live through, you know, our success and failures here, so that we could all, you know, raise that tide together, right? So I think for me, I've learned that, and maybe through others and feedback, that I'm more of a creative leader, you know, and those are, you know, who like structurally complex, challenging situations that require change agents. You know, creatives obviously are innovative, but, you know, they want to navigate and even benefit from uncertainty, things that are unpredictable, right? I think that's also why I was, you know, always attracted to the ICUs as an ICU nurse, you know, and various leadership positions that I had, none of which ever existed prior to me stepping into them. They were created from scratch and really allowed me to function as an entrepreneur. You know, but not just also a creative leader because it's something that's meaningful to me and my team, but I think creative leaders look at solutions that ultimately drive value for society, right? And the entire ecosystem and the entire planet. And I think we're that's what we do as OPOs. I think we're, you know, on the forefront of something that could be learned, improved, scaled, right, broken, fixed, and then moved into the international community at large to help, you know, to help really identify and scale, you know, changing and saving lives. But again, you know, reactives can see risk. So where a reactive leader might see risk, I see value. You know, where a leader might see failure, I see the opportunity for education or improvement or development. You know, reactives see difficulty. I see those as challenges to navigate obstacles. I think that's generally, if there's a style, I think that probably just captures it.
No, and that's a great description. And you talked about sort of the broader community. So what are your goals for Live On New York? Where do you hope to be, and how do you hope to drive the team?
Yeah, you know, look, a lot of organizations, a lot of companies talk about putting themselves out of business, right? And I think that, you know, the only goal that we all have to collectively have is a zero wait list. Call it a moonshot, call it silly, call it whatever you want. But that's the goal. That is the culture that we are building. You know, to paradigm shift. You know, to change our mental model, you know, to put a different lens on and see the world that way. And it's not only the OPO business that leads us there, right? There, you know, there's the deceased donation side of what we do as an OPO, right? But then there's innovation and technology. There's everything from xenotransplant to mechanical. There's, you know, the entire impact of engaging with our electeds and, you know, politicians and looking at how to change laws, whether that's, you know, tax deductions or credits, or, you know, the ability to impact living donation, right? All the way across the spectrum to cutting edge research and educating and publishing on that. So I think when you think of all of those things collectively, you know, the charge to the team, the vision, the aspiration, everything that we're heading for is, how do we do our primary role? How do we do what we're responsible for? And then how do we not abandon our shared mission, our purpose, our mission, and our broader principles to help those around us? So that's when I say ecosystem, when I say community, I am primarily talking about those who entrust us as stewards of their gifts. That is absolutely who I'm initially talking about. But when you step up from there, I believe that we all have a shared responsibility, right? It's not about pointing fingers to one part of our industry, right? I mean, you know, let he without sin throw the first stone, right? I mean, everybody owns a piece of this. Community does, our donor hospitals do, the OPOs do, the transplant hospitals do, right? The transportation industry does, the lab industry does. Everybody owns a piece of it. And I think that that's the culture that we're building, to understand that self-accountability is important, self-reflection, looking in a mirror, understanding our failures, and that it's okay to fail, and that we'll fix things and we'll make it better. But there's a broader shared responsibility on behalf of community, and including the community at large, to really fix this problem, to get to a zero wait list. And that includes, you know, all of the above. And I think that we're all obligated as human beings first, but then as leaders of OPOs and as, community leaders, and for people who have passion and purpose behind our cause, to do everything in our power to head in that direction together.
Yeah, it's great, because I was going to ask how you challenge yourself and your team, but listening to that last answer, it's not just a challenge to yourself and your team, it's a challenge to all of us and
Absolutely.
to the broader community. And so, as I said, you can feel your passion come through, and you want to drive to improve.
Yeah, we've had, we've had great results. I mean, I'll share with this group first. Actually, I mean, the first 6 months of 2022. We had a 30% increase in donors, a 40% increase in organs transplanted, a 33 to 35% increase in tissue donors. So the ability to really, so this isn't theory for us, right? This isn't about punditry or just sitting there and talking about best practice and policy and the right thing, that looks like the right thing to do. There's a looks like part to this, and there's an acts like part to this, right? And the acts like part to this, the execution of our strategic plan and roadmap has led to scale. And that scale has led to changing and saving more lives for, our DSA than ever before. And we've broken, every record in the last 6 months for the state and city. And we're proud of that. So the team gets to feel that, so even if it's hard, and even if they're like, what is this guy doing? Right? Because doing some unorthodox things here that we will test, we will fail, we will iterate on, we will make better, and then we will share. And we expect our colleagues to do the same across OPOs with us to get everybody just the best that we could be. But yeah, the staff is being able to see the results of that, no matter how hard that day is, no matter how hard the task is asked of them. They're getting to see what they came here to do matter to their neighbors and their friends and their family and the community.
And I think that's great, and congratulations on those successes. And I know you're not resting on your laurels. Obviously, you guys are.
No, I can't even. I can't. I'm happy for the staff and happy for the community, but we cannot even celebrate that. That's. I hate to say this. It's nothing in the scheme of 8,000 New Yorkers and 100,000 people waking up this morning needing us. So that's just the beginning. And again, there's so much to learn and so much to do. And we're on the relentless pursuit of making that happen.
Yeah, no, and you're right. It's as I said, you guys have made great strides, but I know you're not letting up. You're going to continue to challenge your team. So shifting gears just a little, how do you spend time outside of work? What do you do to relax and to step out of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm allegedly an artist. I say that because I don't always love my stuff that I do, but other people do, so that's cool. I mean, I'm a street and graffiti artist. I've been one my whole life. So converted to canvas and do shows, and that's my yoga. That's my exhaust. That's how I relax. It's structured time when I need to. Haven't been able to paint in quite a while right now. This is priority number one. Other than that, it's all about family for me. So, my wife, I've got 2 kids, 14-year-old and 11-year-old, and a Staffy Bull Terrier, a 9-year-old, my 3rd child with 4 legs. And yeah, I mean, family, above all things, community. But if there's a hobby that I have or something that really is, how I express myself, other than my passion for healthcare and people and community, it's my art. I'd say it's my art.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to get up to visit you and to see your work. So
appreciate it.
Yeah. Before we close, is there any last words, any final thoughts you want to share with folks watching and your colleagues out there?
Just thank you for the warm welcome. Again, it's obvious that community means something to me, and yet this is another community that we're all a part of, and it's all about becoming a better version of ourselves together. So thank you, and thank you in advance for what we'll all do together.
Well, we appreciate it. And we appreciate you spending time with us today. So thank you.
Thank you guys all. Thank you.